Tangents.
Welcome to Tangents. I'm Susan Farley, Project Manager with McLaughlin Research Corporation, and I support the Public Affairs Office here at Newark Division Newport. In this episode, I talk with Steve Bordonaro. He is the Northeast Tech Bridge Director, and Bordo and I get to the bottom of what everyone has been wondering. What's a tech bridge? Also, what's the difference between a Northeast Tech Bridge and the 401 Tech Bridge? We're going to answer all of that. For all the branch heads and TPMs and PIs out there, we've got upcoming episodes where we get into the specific tools and programs that can connect you to industry in order to bring your project to the next level. So keep an eye out for upcoming Tech Bridge Tangents episodes. In the meantime, have a listen. Welcome to another episode of Tangents. Today, I am talking with Dr. Steve Bordonaro, and we're talking about tech bridges. But Steve, that is not your life's calling. What did you do before you got into the tech bridge game?
So, I've been at Newark forever. I spent most of my career in torpedoes, mainly on signal processing and autonomy. So I did that for many years, Mark 54, and a little bit of ADCAP work. And then I got to the point where I wanted to do signal processing beyond small arrays and torpedoes, so I moved over to the sonar and sensor department, and I've been there for the last few years. And that's where I kind of expanded my horizons a little bit, went back to school, finished my PhD through the fellowship program here, and I've been in Code 15 ever since. And that's where I am now as I do the tech bridge work.
So how did you get involved in the tech bridge work?
Well, like many people, I got bamboozled by Vittorio Ricci.
Happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. He gave me a call. It made it sound like he wanted a ride down to the car shop. He said, "Hey, could you do me a favor, Steve?" And I'm like, "Sure, Vic. What do you need?" He said, "Well, I want you to be the director of this tech bridge thing." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I heard of the tech bridge." And he says, "Okay, good." He said, "I know you've done some good stuff at the Reef. It's kind of a similar thing." Like, okay, great. I get off the phone, and now I'm getting all these calls that we're doing the launch event, and we have 2 senators coming, and an admiral, and a congressman, and could you write talking points?
It was a big fancy deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So then I realized I had to be all in on this tech bridge thing. I was originally thinking that the tech bridge was going to be a subset of the Reef, but now I've kind of flipped that around a little bit, and now that the Reef's a subset of the tech bridge.
So let's back up. What is a tech bridge? Where did the whole idea of that come from?
Base problem I think everyone has recognized over the last maybe decade that the military is no longer the big R&D place. A lot of the research and development dollars are going out to industry, and we really need to tap into that innovation. The idea of some of these companies working with the government is a little bit intimidating. We move too slow, they feel. We're not agile enough. We're a tough place to start a business. If you're a startup and you're dealing with venture capitalism, they're not going to give you the runway to work with the government. So we knew we had to do a better job reaching out to industry, reaching out to academia, and being a connector. Naval X talks about being super connectors. And it was originally connected to industry and academia, but one of the key things is Navy's not very good at connecting with each other. And I find it great being a tech bridge director. There's 15 of them, 14 in the U.S. and 1 in the U.K. And it's so easy for me now to pick up the phone and talk to a guy at NavAir or someone at NIWC. And I didn't really have a good flavor of these organizations. And now I can talk to them and really get to the right people real quickly. And I know there's discussions at high levels and the CTOs meet, et cetera. But there's a little bit more ground floor, like, hey, you know a guy who's working this? And they say, yeah, I'll send you an email. And that's been pretty powerful as well as that connectivity.
So the whole tech bridge idea came out of Naval X, but what we have here at Division Newport, there's 2 tech bridges. There's the 401 Tech Bridge, and then there's the Northeast Tech Bridge. People have been interchanging them, but they are not interchangeable. Steve, could you talk a little bit more about those 2 entities?
The idea of the Naval X Tech Bridge and these regional tech bridges across the country is these are naval entities that work with an outside partner to help with this communication. They're nonprofits, well connected with the state, and they help local companies connect with each other as well as connect with customers like the Navy. Our partner happens to be called the 401 Tech Bridge. Now, the reason the names are the same is this area was the first area to have a tech bridge. So Naval X was starting to figure out what the model was. The state was investing in a materials center, and all the conversations came together and say, yeah, Tech Bridge is a great name. So now they're both called the Tech Bridge. But they are two separate entities. I like to look at them as overlapping circles, where on the left side, you have the Northeast Tech Bridge. That's the naval entity, government employees. On the right side, you have the 401 Tech Bridge. That's a nonprofit partner, non-government employees. If you look to the region on the left that's non-overlapping, that's where we do things that only government employees can do. Enter agreements, review proposals, funding. On the right side, non-overlapping, that's things that the government's not allowed to do. Help write a proposal, matchmake between companies, some strategic help to help a company decide when to go to venture capital or when to apply for an SBIR. And then in the middle is where we work together. If you're a company coming to the Tech Bridge, or you're a researcher who's working with a company, as one organization, or the union of those organizations, we can be a real full service shop without getting into legal trouble. A company may notice that, gee, Steve hasn't been in these last couple meetings. Well, why is that? Well, we're talking proposals. Steve can't help with the proposal. Or on the flip side, they may notice Lee, who's the coordinator at the 401 Tech Bridge. Geez, Lee hasn't been at the last couple meetings. Why is that? Oh, well, we're talking about a research agreement. Only government people can do that. But other than that, they shouldn't notice. They just know, geez, I go to the Tech Bridge, and I go to these guys, and they're here to help. Another important thing to mention about the 401 Tech Bridge, most of the funding does not come from the Navy. It comes from the state and Department of Commerce. So they're doing a lot of things that aren't related to the Navy. They're helping companies connect to primes in the defense world, but also connect to offshore wind. And some of the energy companies and helping there as well.
So Steve, I would imagine that any kind of working with outside, industry or academia needs to create a cooperative research and development agreement of some sort. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say reach out for me for answers. So this is an area where I reach out to Mary Sylvia for answers. So Mary Sylvia from the Technology Partnership Office. She serves as the deputy director of the Tech Bridge, and that helps us form this good partnership. And the TPO office and its tech transfer operation really is a key enabler for the Northeast Tech Bridge for providing what they call these T2 agreements, like partnership intermediary agreements or peers. There's also the creators, as you mentioned. The work for private parties come out of her office. And it's actually a peer arrangement that enables us to work with the 401 Tech Bridge. So Tech Transfer has a number of vehicles to enable collaboration between Newark and private companies, nonprofits, educational institutions. There's so much to talk about that we should probably have a whole separate podcast talking with
happening.
Mary.
We're going to do it. We're
All
going to
right.
get Mary on here.
That sounds awesome.
She'll be awesome. She's very knowledgeable, and she's got a great voice for podcasts.
She does.
So you are the director of the Northeast Tech Bridge, and you're here at Division Newport. And we're working together to get the word out to the workforce about how the Tech Bridge can help them with their projects. And I think that's really what the listeners are curious about. How is the Northeast Tech Bridge of benefit to a customer advocate or technical program manager or PI or whoever? What can the Tech Bridge do for them?
it's sometimes difficult at Newark to work with industry, to get money out, to get requirements out, and to have them help solve problems. And the industry's moving fast out there, and they are moving fast in areas that we work in. I know 20 years ago, if you were talking sonar systems, it was pretty much a Navy thing. Now, there's a lot of research in the drilling industry, offshore wind, marine mammals. There's a lot of good science going on and companies out there that aren't working with the Navy. How do we tap in? As a TPM, you want to get something done, you want to get something built, or you have a hard problem that you just don't know how to solve, and you want to reach out to a broad base. Well, going through the Tech Bridge is a good way to do that. There's a lot of things that Tech Bridge can do, and that's why we're probably going to have more than one conversation. But the two I'll focus on right now is prize challenges and tech scouting. There's a thing called a prize challenge. We've done a couple of these, and if you have a really tough problem and you're looking for innovative solutions, and you have money, you have funding. I don't have a pocketbook to fund these prize challenges, but if you're working for a sponsor and you're trying to solve a problem and you have a piece of it you want help with, you write up your challenge statement. You give it to me, and I'll work with contracts to get the authority to do a prize challenge. And we use a thing called a CPO, Collaborative Project Agreement, with the 401 Tech Bridge to get that challenge published. So, for example, one just went out where on the ships they have a bunch of hand wheels, and they can't keep inventory of spares. So they want to be able to 3D print them and make it easy for the sailor to just grab a hand wheel that's broken, take a couple measurements, and hit a button and get a printout. So NavCO5 came to us with some money and say, hey, see who could solve this problem. So we had a collaborative project order with the 401 Tech Bridge. They got the statement out. That's on challenge.gov, but it's also on this Innocentive website, which reaches solvers across the country, whether it's university professors, college students, small companies, large companies too, but companies that would not be floating around on beta.sam.gov because they don't want to deal with us. They'll go to these websites. And if they have a good solution, they're going to submit it through this website. Navy will review it, but we'll pick the winner. And then they're going to get paid by the 401 Tech Bridge. They don't have to know that it's the Navy or have to deal with any bureaucracy. In fact, if you want to do a prize challenge where you don't even want to let anyone know it's the Navy, you can do that. So that's a powerful option as well. And writing a good challenge takes some work, but the process, it's easy. It's at least government easy. And I'll try to keep you away from the painful parts and help you move your money out to industry.
So you also mentioned, in addition to the prize challenge, tech scouting. What is tech scouting? Okay.
Well, as I mentioned, there's a lot more people doing stuff we're interested in than there was a while ago. I know there's a company up in Canada that has an unmanned surface vehicle that can handle like any sea state and tows an array to do marine mammal monitoring. These aren't Navy people. They're not thinking about working with the U.S. military, but they're out there. If you're working on something, you want to just say, hey, who else in industry is working on this, other than the Raytheons and the Lockheeds? I mean, they're great and all, but yeah, we play enough with those guys.
We know what they do.
Yeah. Let's find some cool, fast-moving company. So you could go to the Tech Bridge in a couple ways. You could just say, hey, I'm looking for companies that do X, Y, and Z. They could do kind of a light tech scout, especially for local companies, and that's something they'll just do as part of their mission with the state. But if you want to go deeper, and let's say you have a UUV and you have a small antenna that you want to get better comms from, and you're looking for an innovative antenna design, you could write a price challenge statement that says, hey, I need an antenna that has low profile, that has sees this distance. I'm looking for a concept and a quick demonstration. So if you're just looking for a concept, you go to the tech bridge and say, hey, who's in this world of antenna manufacturing that we might not be working with? And they could just find the companies and let you know. They could go a little bit deeper and get into the requirements, or they can get to the point, and this is where I think it could be pretty exciting, where you could start doing a joint demonstration where you'd fund the tech bridge with some basic requirements to say, hey, help us find this company and then help us work with this company to do a demo. So this company, maybe they're doing something nothing to do with undersea, but they have these low-profile antennas, and they've used them in a certain industry. Well, let's get them together. Let's get them on a UUV and test it. Let's do a ground-based test over at the Portsmouth facility, and then let's get it in Narragansett Bay test facility.
It's like a micro Antex.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes, we're not doing Antex. We didn't last summer. We're not doing it this summer. Let's not lose that momentum of working with those companies and doing the demos. But let's be a little bit more targeted, and work with the company and say, you start not knowing who the company is, you end up in the Bay with a brand new partner. And a demo of a new technology that you can then take forward to maybe it's an OTA or maybe it's a FAR contract. But you've made that initial step and you've done what you need to do quickly. We have to feel.
I was going to say that it's a reasonable amount of time that these things are taking place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at some of the rules, the contracting rules, and they make sense for these big, long programs. The outside world's moving so quickly right now, and are we moving quickly? I'm not going to say yes or no. I'll let you answer that question yourself. But are we moving as quickly as industry? When we're doing this prototype stuff, this stuff where you're supposed to fail fast quickly, iterate, are we set up to do that? Well, if not, if you don't feel like you're able to fail fast quickly, or you're able to iterate quickly, or you're in a project that you wanna iterate your prototype 20 times, but you have to get all your purchase requests in the first quarter of the fiscal year. Are you able to work like you're supposed to work as an innovator? I don't know. If you are, great.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say no. You're not. Okay. You're not working as fast as you want to.
Right. So let's fix that.
Yeah, let's.
And
fix
I don't have
that.
all the answers. But
you have a lot of answers, though, Steve. I think the takeaway from this episode, this is the first of several episodes where we delve into the Northeast Tech Bridge and so on. The big takeaway I would like people to have is if you have questions, contact Steve. There's a wiki on Fusion, and I will have that link posted. But you have the information. If you don't have the answer, you'll get the answer. So correct me if I'm wrong. If you and your work team have a problem, a challenge, you're unable to solve it here at Newport, you should look outside the gates, maybe give you a call, and see how you might be able to connect work teams with the outside world.
Exactly.
Okay. So before we wrap up, we're recording this podcast at the Reef, which is Rapid Engineering Experimentation Facility. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Down at the NBTF, Narragansett Bay Test Facility. So we're going to talk about the Reef in future episodes, but it's really going to be like what you meant it to be is sort of a real center point for innovation here at the NBTF and bringing people in when they're testing in water. So we're going to talk about the Reef later. We're going to talk about CRADAs. We're going to talk about a lot of other ways for people to connect, in addition to Prize Challenge and Tech Scouting. So, Steve, thank you so much for being on Tangents. Is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast.
It's not bad, right?
It was horrible.
All right, I'll catch you on the next episode.
Tangents.
Thanks for listening. For more information on Tech Bridges, you can follow #TechBridge on Fusion or check out the Northeast Tech Bridge wiki page, which gets updated a lot, has a lot of great information that can answer a lot of your questions. Also, be sure to follow #Tangents on Fusion and check back to the Tangents Wiki for more episodes.